Hi everyone, and welcome to our very first virtual Philosophy Café. This is from the partnership of the University of Glasgow Philosophy Department and Think Learn Libraries. My name is Ruaridh, and I'm currently a doctoral student within the University of Glasgow. I'm working on the intersection between AI and extended epistemology. Today, I'm going to be giving you a brief introduction towards that very topic, the topic of extended epistemology. I say brief as I do not want anyone to think that I'm talking down to them, nor that I'm explaining everything. It's a large and convoluted topic, and one that I think is in constant change. This is just meant to give everyone a little taster and see if you're interested. We'll be discussing the roots from which extended epistemology came from, some cases that are meant to tease our intuitions a little bit, and some of the questions that are facing researchers like myself today and in the future. So without further ado, let's begin. So we'll begin by clarifying the areas we're going to be focusing in upon today. What is epistemology? Well, it's a theory of knowledge, especially with regard to its methods, validity and scope, and the distinction between justified belief and opinion. Is knowledge simply justified true belief, or is there something more to it? Is knowledge innately valuable? What kinds of knowledge are there? How do we come to gain knowledge in certain ways and scenarios? The list of questions when epistemology goes on, and that's what makes it so cool. The extended part of the extended epistemology comes from the philosophy of mind, however. This is where we study the nature of the mind and its connections towards our bodies and the external world. To create a clear narrative, we'll begin with the philosophy of mind. It has some really big and important questions, such as the hard problem of consciousness, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. But we only have a short amount of time, so we'll refrain from touching upon all of these today and focus in on the extended part of extended epistemology. The philosophy of mind has a long and well-read past, but we're going to focus in on a period of change that happened around the late 1900s. At this time, externalism was beginning to gain more traction within the literature of the philosophy of mind by philosophers such as Hilary Putnam. Externalism argues that the conscious mind is not only the result of what is going on inside the nervous system, aka the brain, but also what occurs or exists outside the person. Here's an example which might push our intuitions a little bit. We have Earth, and we have twin Earth. Twin Earthlings are exact duplicates, down to last molecule, and have the same behavioural histories as Earthlings. Even so, there is one important difference. The substance we call water on twin Earth does not actually consist of H2O, but of XYZ. This difference has not affected how the inhabitants of your planet use their respective liquids, but the liquids have different hidden structures. Let's then imagine it is the year 1750, so before the development of chemistry on either planet. In this time, there are no experts that know of the hidden structure of water or its twin. So Putnam says when the inhabitants of Earth use the term water, they still refer to the liquid of H2O. But when the inhabitants of twin Earth do the same, they refer to the liquid made of XYZ. In a way then, even our terms we think of as fixed are actually a form of indexical like I or you, that can change depending upon individuals saying it or the context. When I say water, I mean something completely different from my twin when they say water, and an externalist would claim this is due to being dependent upon the environment. This line of argumentation is compatible with more traditional forms of cognition, where the material realisers of cognition are intracranial, meaning they're in our heads. In other words, by material realisers, we mean that what drives cognition itself are processes that take place within our biological brains. So given that externalism was gaining traction within the field of debate, it allowed for others to chime in the topic with new forms, just like embodied cognition. In embodied cognition, it's thought that parts of your body, and not just your brain, can and sometimes do play a physically constitutive role in cognitive processing. But what do we actually mean by this? Well, I'm hoping that you've heard of the old adage where you smile and the world smiles back at you. But do you know there's a psychological reason behind this? When we smile, we're able to comprehend and process pleasant situations faster than unpleasant ones. So we believe that the world is smiling back because we notice it more. It's more salient. Nothing has actually changed in the world, but a reaction to it has. And a reaction to it is from our cognitive processing of the environment, which is impacted by our body's action of smiling. Given this, it's not hard to see why some believe that in certain scenarios at least, when our bodies and brains are heavily independent, then our bodies can be seen as part of our minds. So we've taken the mental out of the head and included the body, but is this as far as we want to go? This will serve as a jumping off point into the extended part of extended epistemology. Our minds, if embodied cognition is right, are not bound by simply our brains. So these two introduced a new paper to the externalism literature. The paper is called The Extended Mind. In this, they take a stance looking at externalism and embodied cognition and thinking, what if we went that step further? This created a new form of externalism known as active externalism or vehicular externalism. Whereas the externalism we've looked at so far gave us a notion of dependence from the mental onto the environments, active externalism holds that there's a sort of codependence between the mental and our environments. There's more of an active fashion towards how the environment and the mental play out. In other words, they believe that our mental lives are not confined towards simply the brain or body, but can be extended to objects and social creatures. This gave rise to two theses, the extended cognition thesis and the extended mind thesis. Before we look at these more specifically, let's look at Clark and Chalmers' examples to see if we can push this a bit further. So this is the case of INGA and OTTO. INGA hears from a friend that there's an interesting exhibition on at the Museum of Modern Art and decides it'd be a good idea to go see it. So why not? After thinking for a minute, INGA recalls the Museum of Modern Art is on 53rd Street and subsequently heads there. OTTO, on the other hand, has Alzheimer's disease, and in an effort to fight against his memory loss, he carries around a notebook where he religiously notes down and looks up information pertinent to his life. When he learns new information, he writes it in his notebook, and when he wants an older piece of information, he looks it up. He also wants to visit the Museum of Modern Art and looks up the information in his notebook to find that it's located in 53rd Street. Intuitively, we want to say that INGA has cognition. But what about OTTO? If the material, constitution and location of real cognition are primarily important, then there's nothing interesting that can be said about this case. It'd be a moot point. This is because the notebook is obviously outside of the skull and skin, where we normally think that cognition happens. But Clark and Chalmers want us to hold the use of notebook on a functional par with ordinary biomemory. In this, information is stored and retrieved in the same way. So Clark and Chalmers disagree that the material constitution and location of cognition are of primary importance. Instead, we'd want to take a leaf from a functionalist notebook. But what is functionalism? It's a theory within the philosophy of mind that states that what makes something a mental state of a particular type does not depend on its internal constitution, but rather on the way it functions, or the role it plays in the system of which it is a part. This is the theory that gives birth to Clark and Chalmers' crucial parity principle. This states that if, as we confront some task, a part of the world functions as a process which, were it to go on in the head, we would have no hesitation in accepting as part of the cognitive process, then that part of the world is part of the cognitive process. So what is key here is the functional role that is played, instead of the material constitution and location that we previously thought might be primary. So looking at OTTO, if INGA is a candidate for a cognitive process, then OTTO should be as well. If his notebook memory were to go on in his head, we'd count it as part of the cognitive system, right? So with the parity principle and functionalism in our philosophical tool bag, what exactly are the extended cognition thesis and extended mind thesis? Well, the extended cognition thesis wants us to believe that some cognitive processes, such as memory, can and do crisscross the boundaries of our brains, bodies, and the external world, aka it's not all in our heads. The extended mind thesis is a bit more controversial and slightly stronger. It's where mental states such as beliefs can supervene on extra-organismic elements of the world. To make this a bit clearer, in the case of OTTO, it's not simply that the notebook is part of his cognitive processes, but that his beliefs are actually stored within the notebook itself. The beliefs are in the notebook and not in his head. I note here that the extended mind thesis is slightly stronger. This is because there is space to opt for extended cognition without also adopting the extended mind thesis. Basically, extended cognition focuses on cognitive processes and extended mind focuses on mental states. The difference can seem slight, but it's an important difference. You can argue for extended cognitive processes without also arguing for extended mental states. Now, if either the extended mind thesis or the extended cognition thesis is true, then it has real imports towards how we view the world and how we study the philosophy of mind. But importantly, it also has impact on how we study epistemology. We've got into some pretty convoluted stuff, but where does this factor into epistemology? Normally, epistemology is theoretically neutral in a wide range of the theses within the philosophy of mind. But it isn't neutral when it comes to extended mind and extended cognition theses. Why, I hear you ask? Because if these theses are correct, or even just one of them is correct, then there is straight impact on epistemology. It may change whether we view people as knowing, or justifiably believing, or simply just believing. It may even change how the theories in the epistemological literature take shape. Let's return to OTTO to see how this impact may happen. If we ignore the extended mind and cognition theses and claim that beliefs are only intracranially, again in our heads, then OTTO seems like a poor candidate for knowledge. However, if the extended mind thesis is true, then OTTO may still succeed in knowing even if his beliefs are not intracranial. And furthermore, if extended cognition is true, then we have to open up how we view OTTO's cognitive processes that can give rise to knowledge, i.e. memory can give rise to knowledge, so extended memory can give rise to knowledge. There are obviously problems for cases of extended knowledge. Many philosophers focus in upon functional similarity and integration issues. After all, you don't just want anything counting as an extension of their mind, right? We've already stated we want to give extension in only specific and certain circumstances. So if OTTO didn't religiously use his notebook and only used it every now and again, personally I'd be less inclined to say he's a candidate for knowledge. This is because the functional similarity between his bio-memory and notebook memory is weakened. We rely on bio-memory consistently, and he wouldn't be doing so if he only used his notebook every now and again. So how similar does an extended process or mental state have to be, just for it to be functionally similar? And can it ever be sufficiently similar? The other side of the issue is that of integration. There are different ways for this to be cashed out, such as John Greco's cooperation condition and the interaction of the process within the wider cognitive system, or Duncan Pritchard's glowing trust and endorsement conditions. These sort of conditions are designed to tackle questions such as, how does this integration of an extended object into a person's cognitive structure take place? And if so, what are the restrictions we want to use? Some people might not feel the intuitive pull towards OTTO's case being integrated sufficiently. After all, he can lose his notebook, right? And how can we lose part of the minds? So let's update this a little bit and make it a bit more fun. Here's a couple of individuals who have both a bio-mind and implanted advanced technology. Personally, I think it's less controversial to say these individuals have a sufficiently integrated object in their cognitive processing. But why is this? Is it because of the advanced nature of the technology? Personally, I don't want to say that. Or is it because it's within their bodies in a way? Imagine a computer chip or processor falls out of the body, but it's still attached by some wires or Wi-Fi or something like that. What then? This losing part of our mind argument against OTTO can be said for anyone. After all, we can all bump our heads and lose parts of our memories. But that's not to say that part of our brain that processes our memories is not part of our minds, simply because it's lost at a certain time. What we're grasping at here is again issues of functional similarity and integration. The way in which we spell these out will matter immensely, but there are so many and they're quite complex, so we're not going into great detail here, but it's interesting to bring up. There are a number of questions, other than those of the functional similarity and integration issues we've already mentioned, that are now facing philosophers when combining extended mind and cognition literature with epistemology, such as whether these theses can be combined with something other than an externalist point of view. In other words, do the extended mind and cognition theses remain compatible when we include an internalist point of view? For reference, an internalist point of view being related to how we access or base our justifications for knowledge. Furthermore, is the extended cognition or extended mind thesis compatible with theories such as Williamson's knowledge first account, where knowledge itself is a mental state? What about the intuitions that self-knowledge is distinctly privileged? Wouldn't extended cognition of the kind we've talked about create forms of self-knowledge that isn't privileged in this way, aka other people can access it? Extrapolating even further, what are the ramifications if our mind is able to extend, at least morally speaking? Think about the searching on mobile phones for information by course. If the mobile phone can be considered as part of our mind, then does anyone have the right to search our minds like that? Isn't that an infringement upon their rights as conscious beings of people? Now you're probably walking away with more questions than you came in with, But that's great, that's philosophy, that's what I aim for. This was designed as a short introduction towards the topic, but one I'll happily discuss with anyone who gets in touch with me. Do you believe that our minds can extend beyond our skull and skin, or is this just science fiction mumbo-jumbo? Do you like the cases I brought up, or would you rather something different? As a side note, I've left some reading and sources at the end, but if that's not enough, again, let me know and contact me. As I sign off, I want to thank the University of Glasgow Philosophy Department, as well as Alison Walsh and Chris Wilson for setting all of this up. There's going to be many more interesting and intriguing philosophy talks coming forth, and I hope you subscribe and enjoy them. For now, goodbye and stay safe during lockdown.